I didn't think a single text message could change the temperature of a room. But when my phone buzzed that Tuesday evening, the air around me tightened like something was about to snap. The message was from my wife, Emily. Simple, casual, almost cheerful in a way that felt rehearsed. I'm staying at Sarah's place for a week. Need a little break. Don't wait up. No explanation, no call, no conversation. Just a statement wrapped in politeness, like she'd only stepped out to buy groceries. I stared at the message longer than I should have. Not because it hurt, I think the hurt had gone quiet months ago, but because it confirmed something I hadn't wanted to admit to myself. The distance between us wasn't accidental. It wasn't a phase. It was her choice. So I typed back, "All right." That was it. No question mark, no plea for clarification, no attempt to hold on to a rope that had already been cut. But the moment I hit send, I wasn't thinking about saving my marriage. I was thinking about saving myself. For the past year, Emily had slowly drifted into a version of herself I didn't recognize. Long silences at dinner, secretive smiles at her phone, work trips that didn't match any travel schedules. She still slept on her side of the bed, but her body language stayed miles away. When I reached for her hand, she'd move absent-mindedly, like a person shifting in their sleep. No hostility, just absence. And absence can bruise just as deeply as cruelty. But I think what hurt the most wasn't the withdrawal. It was the performances. The exaggerated kindness when other people were around. The way she'd call me love at dinners with friends but couldn't look me in the eye when we were alone. The way she'd tell her coworkers that we were doing great when she hadn't asked me a genuine question in months. Maybe the saddest part was that I believed her performances for longer than I should have. I held on to the idea of us long after she'd stopped holding anything at all. So when she said she needed a break, it wasn't the request that told me everything. It was the lightness in her wording. Like she'd already rehearsed her freedom and was just waiting for the right cue to step into it. That night, I sat at the dining table where we used to share dinner and laughter, staring at the faint watermark from her coffee mug. It used to annoy me, the smudges she'd leave on wooden surfaces. Now it felt like the last fingerprint of a person who had already emotionally moved out. But clarity is a strange thing. It doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't slam doors or break windows. It just walks in quietly, takes the chair across from you, and waits for you to look it in the eye. By sunrise, I had already made the decision, not out of spite, not out of desperation, not even out of heartbreak, but out of honesty. If she wanted space, real space, then I was going to give it to her. Not the temporary kind she could step in and out of when it was convenient. The kind she'd have to live with. Her boss, Nathan, lived in the same suburb as Sarah. He also knew both of us well enough to understand the gravity of a sealed envelope delivered to his doorstep. I didn't want drama. I didn't want theatrics. I just wanted her to receive the truth without distortion. So on the second day of her break, I drove to Nathan's house in Brookfield with the envelope on the passenger seat. My hands didn't shake. My heartbeat didn't race. Everything inside me was strangely still, as if my mind had finally understood something my heart had been resisting. When I handed Nathan the envelope, he looked at the return address, then looked back at me with the kind of expression people wear when they're not sure whether they should hug you or apologize for something that isn't their fault. "Are you sure?" he asked quietly. "I'm sure," I said. I didn't offer more explanation, and he didn't push for one. 15 minutes after I left his porch, my phone started vibrating violently in the cup holder. Then again and again and again. By the time I pulled into our driveway in Elmhurst, the screen showed 54 missed calls and one message from Emily. Short, frantic, and nothing like the breezy woman who had texted me the day before. "Jake, please don't do this." Her panic arrived exactly when my calm finally made sense. I didn't open her message right away. I just sat in the parked car with the engine off, listening to the soft ticking of cooling metal. Felt strange. After months of feeling nothing but confusion, loneliness, and the quiet humiliation of being slowly phased out of my own marriage, I was finally the one who wasn't scrambling. Her desperation didn't fill me with satisfaction. It didn't feel like a victory. It simply confirmed what I had suspected for a long time. She never thought I would actually leave. She counted on my patience, my softness, my tendency to forgive her long gaps in affection, and her sudden disinterest in the life we were supposed to be sharing. She counted on the version of me who waited up at night, who asked gentle questions and received clipped answers, who carried the emotional weight of two people while she drifted through our home like a visiting guest. But the man she expected wasn't the man walking through the front door anymore. I put my phone on the kitchen counter and poured myself a glass of water. Simple, steady, unhurried. Her calls kept coming, one after another, vibrating against the marble. It almost looked like the phone was shivering. By the time I finally answered, her voice was already cracking. Jake, why? Why would you send that? Why to Nathan's house? Why didn't you talk to me first? The irony was almost painful. I had tried talking for months. Small conversations, soft attempts, gentle reminders that I still existed in the space between us. Every time she would brush it off with a sigh or a tired excuse. Not now. I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. It's not you, it's the phase I'm in. But her phase seemed to end only when someone else texted her, when someone else called, when someone else made her laugh in that bright, effortless way I hadn't heard in far too long. I didn't send anything you didn't earn, I said quietly. She inhaled sharply, like the words had knocked the air out of her. Jake, don't talk like that. You know I just needed space. I told you that. Yes, I replied. But you didn't tell me why. There was a long silence on her end. Not the thoughtful kind, the cornered kind. I told you, she finally whispered. I'm overwhelmed. I'm burnt out. No, I said, cutting through gently but firmly. You're only overwhelmed by me. Everyone else gets the best of you. Another silence. This one landed heavier. I didn't send the papers to punish you, I said. I sent them because I'm done holding on to a version of us that only I'm fighting for. Jake, please, she said, and this time her voice broke completely. Please don't do this. I wasn't leaving you. I just needed time. Time for what? To think, she whispered. You've had a year to think, I replied. And every decision you made in that year told me where I stood. A small stifled sob came through the speaker. I closed my eyes for a moment, not because I was tempted to give in, but because endings never feel clean no matter how necessary they are. Jake, I never wanted it to get to this point. But it did, I said softly. And you weren't even surprised when you walked away. You were surprised when I didn't chase you. She didn't respond. Maybe she couldn't. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse her of cheating or lying or manipulating. I didn't need to. The absence of effort, the emotional withdrawal, the sudden escape to Sarah's house, they spoke more clearly than any confession ever could. Emily, I said with a steadiness I wished I'd had months ago. I'm not angry at you truly, but I'm not staying in a marriage where I feel unwanted. Her breath hitched. But I do want you, she insisted, tripping over her words. I was just confused. It was a rough patch. People go through those. People do, I agreed. But they go through them together. You went through yours alone and expected me to just be here waiting when it was convenient again. More tears. More silence. Then in a small voice she asked, so that's it. I looked around the house. Our photos, our sofa, the plant she'd insisted we buy, the quiet corners that used to feel warm. All of it now felt like a museum of intentions we never fulfilled. No, I said after a moment. This is the beginning for both of us. You wanted space. I'm finally giving it to you. She cried harder. I didn't say anything more. I wasn't cold. I was just done bleeding for something that wasn't healing. Jake, please come talk to me face to face. Not like this. I will, I said. When the papers arrive at your actual address. There was a long broken pause. I didn't think you'd ever leave me, she whispered. I know, I replied. That's the problem. And with that, I ended the call. Not angrily, not dramatically, but with the quiet finality of a door gently closing behind a man who finally understood his own worth.